Hi, I'm Luke. Welcome back to 100 Days of SwiftUI. Today we're looking at day 14, which is optionals. Now I'm going to do the test for unwrapping optionals. So this code will print a message, true or false. So we have a property favorite movie, which is an optional string, which equals nil. And we set the favorite movie to the life of Brian. And we have an if let movie equals favorite movie. And we'll print your favorite movie as movie, otherwise it just prints you don't have a favorite movie. So we've got the if let, so movie is going to be the new constant if favorite movie contains a value, which it does. So well, it's going to print a message in either case, so this is true. Okay, we have property weather forecast, which is a string with the default value sunny. We have if let forecast equals weather forecast, and we have print the forecast is forecast. Otherwise, it'll print the no forecast is available. It's going to print in either case, so this is true. Oh, it's not an optional. Okay. So it attempts to use iflet to unwrap weather forecast, which is not optional. Okay, we have let song, which is an optional string, and it equals shake it off. And we have if let unwrap song equals song, and it will print the name has unwrap song.count letters. Yep, so it's unwrapping an optional, so that's true. Okay, we have let current destination equal, which is an optional string, which equals nil. And we have if let destination equals current destination, and it prints we're walking to destination, otherwise it prints we're just wandering. It's unwrapping an optional string, so that's true. We have let table height, which is an optional double, equal to 100. And it's trying to use if table height is greater than 85, but it's not unwrapping the optional. So that's not going to print anything. Yeah, this attempts to compare an optional double against 85, which is not possible. We have let menu items, which is an optional array of strings, and it equals an array of pizza and pasta. And we have an if let items equals menu items, and we print there are menu items.count menu items to choose from. So it's unwrapping the optional array of strings there. So yep, that looks good. Oh, it's referring to menu items, which is the original one, the optional one, not the unwrapped one. Okay. Okay, we've got a property score with which is an int, which equals nil. I'm not sure you can actually set them to nil when they're not optional, so I don't think that's valid. Yeah, it attempts to assign nil to a non-optional integer. We've got let album equals red, and let albums equals an array of reputation, red, and 1989. We have if let position equals albums.first index of album. That's not unwrapping an optional, so that's not going to be valid. Oh, it will print a message. Okay. We have let user age equals an optional int, which is 38. And we have if let age equals user age, and it prints you are age years old. Yep, that's unwrapping the optional int. So that looks good. We have let favorite tennis player, which is an optional string, equal Andy Murray. So it's got if player. It's not actually defining player, it defines favorite tennis player. So I don't think that's valid. We have a property winner, which is an optional string, which defaults to 0. Then it sets winner to Daley Thompson. And we have if let name equals winner. So it's unwrapping the optional string there, so that's fine. And it uses name, which is the unwrapped version. So yeah, that looks good. We have a property best score, which is an optional int, which equals nil, and best score equals 101. And we have if best, okay, it's trying to check best score there, but it's an optional that's not unwrapped yet, so that's not going to print anything. Yeah, this attempts to compare an optional int against 100, which is not possible. Okay, so a couple wrong there. Okay, now I'm going to try unwrapping with guard. This code will print a message, true or false. So we have a function double, which takes in an optional int, which is a number, and it returns an optional int. We have guard, let number equal number, else it'll return nil. And if it can unwrap number to number, then it returns the number time multiplied by 2. Okay, so we have let input equals 5. If let doubled equals double, and it passes in input as the number. So yeah, so it's going to pass in 5, and it'll return 5 times 2. So, and then it'll print input is doubled is, and then doubled. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. All right, we have a function play opera, and it's got by composer, which is an optional string, and it returns an optional string. And we have let, that should be a guard, let composer equals composer. So don't think that's valid. Yeah, let composer equals composer else should read guard let composer equals composer else. Okay. All right, we have the function playscale, which takes in name, which is an optional string. And we have guard let name equal name, and then it'll just return the function. Otherwise, it'll print playing the name scale, and we have play scale with name equals C. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, it should be guard let name equal name else. Okay. All right, with func verify, which takes in age, which is an optional int, and it returns a boolean. And we have guard, it's got guard age equals 18. It should be, actually, I'm used to like the guard let, but just doing guard should be okay. Because it's just going to check the condition of this. It's not actually assigning a constant to it. So yeah, I think that'll work. Oh, it doesn't have else. Okay. Okay, we have a function uppercase with a property string, which is an optional string, and it returns an optional string. We have guard let string equals string else, and it'll return nil. Then if it passes, then we'll have return string dot uppercase, and we have if let uppercase string hello, and it'll print the result. So that looks good. It'll print hello in uppercase. We have a function is long enough, which takes in a string, which is an optional string, and it returns a boolean. And we have guard let string equals string else. It'll return false. And if it passes, then we'll have if string count is greater than or equal to 8, it'll return true. Otherwise, it'll return false. And so we've got if is long enough Mario Odyssey, and string count is greater than 8, so it'll return true. And so it'll print out let's play that. So yeah, that looks good. We have the function add3, and it takes in a number int and returns an int. With guard let number equals number else, it'll return 3. Otherwise, it'll return the number plus 3. So we have let added equals add 3 to 5, and it'll print added. So it's going to print out 8. So yeah, this will print something. Oh, it's got to be an optional. Okay. So because int's not an optional, it's not needing to be unwrapped. Okay. We have a function validate, which takes in password, which is an optional string, and it returns a boolean. We have guard let password equals password, else it'll return false. Otherwise, if password equals frosties, it'll print authenticated successfully and return true. Otherwise, it'll return false. And so we're going to run validate with the password frosties. So it's unwrapping an optional string and it's returning a boolean, so that looks good. We have the function test, which takes in a number which is an optional int, and we have guard let number equals number else, and it will return. Otherwise, it'll print number is number, and we're calling test number with 42. Yeah, so it's unwrapping an optional int, so that should be good. We have a function username, and for ID, which is an optional int, and it returns a string. Oh, okay. So we've got guard let ID equals ID else. So it's unwrapping the optional int there, but it's returning nil. And string is not an optional string, it's just a normal string. So it won't let you return nil. So that's not going to work. Yeah, it's acting as if username returns an optional string, and it does not. It's a non-optional string. We have a function describe with an occupation, which is an optional string. And we have guard let occupation equals occupation else. And it prints you don't have a job. And it will return. Otherwise, it'll print URN and then the occupation. And we have let job equals engineer, and we have describe occupation with the job. So it's unwrapping the optional string there. Yeah, that looks like it works. We have a function plant tree, which takes in a type, which is an optional string. And we have, this is guard type, but it doesn't have guard type equals type. It's not assigning this variable to a new constant. So that's not going to work. Yeah, this should probably read guard let type else or similar. Yeah. Okay, so a couple wrong there, but this one was a bit tricky. Now I'm going to try the test for nil coalescing. This code demonstrates using nil coalescing with optionals, true or false. So we have painter, which is a string, and it equals Leonardo da Vinci. And we have artist, which is a string, which equals the painter, otherwise unknown. The painter is a string, it's not an optional string, so I don't think that's valid. Yeah, use nil coalescing without an optional. Okay, we have best pony, which is an optional string, and it equals Pinkie Pie. We have let selected pony, which is an optional string, equals. It's using the comparison double equals, not the equals. So I don't think that's valid. Yeah. We have let lightsaber color, which is an optional string, and it equals green. And we've let color equals lightsaber color. Otherwise, it'll be blue. So yeah, that looks valid. So it's going to use a nil coalescing operator on lightsaber color, which is an optional string. That looks valid. Yeah. Okay, we have property captain, which is an optional string, and we have Catherine Janeway. And we have let name equals captain, otherwise with a nil coalescing operator for anonymous. Yeah, that's unwrapping. Well, it's not unwrapping, but it's providing an option for captain, so it's valid. Okay, we have let number sum, which is an optional double, equals 0.0. And we have let sum, which is a double. It doesn't have anything after the nil coalescing operator, so I don't think that's valid. Yeah, this is missing the right-hand side of the nil coalescing operator. With a property conference name, which is an optional string, which equals WWDC. And we have a property conference, which is a string, and it equals conference name with the nil operator. Okay, so it's got the nil coalescing operator with nil, and it should actually be returning it a value that's not nil. So that's not going to be valid. Yeah, this results in trying to assign nil to conference, which is not allowed. Okay, we have let planet number, which is an optional int, and it's 426. And we have destination equals planet number, otherwise 3. Yeah, it's doing, yeah, planet number is an optional int. So that's going to work. Okay, we have let user ID, which is an optional int, and it equals 556. And we have let ID equals user ID, otherwise unknown. So user ID is an optional int, so that's, oh, user ID is an int, but if it's not, if it's nil, then it's going to try and setting it to a string. So I don't think that's going to work. Yeah, this attempts to use nil coalescing across different types, which isn't allowed. Okay, we have distance ran, which is an optional double, which equals 0.5. And we have let distance, which is a double, equals distance ran. So distance ran is an optional double. So I think that's going to be valid. We have user opted in, which is an optional boolean, which defaults to nil. And we have opted in, which equals user opted in, otherwise false. So it's set to nil, but it's an optional, so that's okay. And we're checking here what to do in case it is nil. So it'll be false. So yes, this works. Yeah. Okay, we have genes number, which is an optional int, which equals nil. And we have let genes equals genes number. Oh, it's only got one question mark there, not two, so that's not going to work. We have a property selected here, which is an optional int, which defaults to nil. And we have let actual year equals selected year, otherwise 1989. So selected year is an optional int, so yeah, that looks good. Awesome, all right. Now I'm going to try the test for optional chaining. So this code is valid Swift, true or false. So we have let names equals an array of strings, which has Taylor and Paul and Adele. And we have let length of last equals names dot last question mark dot count question mark. So the last might not have a last, so the optional's there. I'm not sure where the count should be called with an optional. I don't think that's valid. Yeah, the count property is not optional, so it should read names.last question mark dot count. Okay, we have let credentials equals array of strings, which has two straws and frosties. And we have let lowercase username equals credentials dot first dot lowercase. First should have a question mark after it, so that's not going to be valid. Accessing the first property returns an optional, so this should read credentials dot first question mark dot lowest case. Okay, we have a property songs, which is an optional array of strings, and it equals an empty array of strings. And we have that final song equals songs question mark dot last question mark dot uppercase. So it's accessing the songs as an optional, and if it can unwrap that, then it will continue with the rest of the line. So that looks valid. Okay, we have a function album released with takes in a year, which is an int, and returns an optional string. And we have switch year. So for 2006 will be Taylor Swift, 2008 will be Fearless, 2010 will be Speak Now, 2012 will be Red, 2014 will be 1989, and 2017 it'll be Reputation. If it's none of those, then it'll return nil. And this is returning an optional string, so that's okay. And so we've got let album equals album release in 2006. And if we can find that, then it'll uppercase it. So we're going to get Taylor Swift in uppercase. So yeah, that looks valid. Okay, we have a constant attendees, which is an array of strings, and it equals a new array of strings. We have first in line equals attendee. It's trying to check whether attendees is an optional or not, and it's non-optional, so that's not going to be valid. Yeah, attendees is not optional, so it should read attendees.first question mark dot uppercase. We have let shopping item equals array of strings, which contains eggs and tomatoes and grapes. And we have let first item equals shopping list dot first question mark dot appending are on my shopping list. So we have the first function which returns an optional, so that's okay. And yeah, it's going to return eggs that are on my shopping list. That looks valid. We have let captains equals an optional array of strings, and we have Archer and Lorca and Cisco. And we have length of best captain equals captains dot last question mark dot count. So we're not actually unwrapping captains there, it's just doing captains, it should be captains question mark. So that's not valid. Yeah, the captain's array is not optional, so they should read captains question mark dot last question mark dot count. Also, the array should not end with a question mark. Okay. With the function load forecast with for day number, which is an int, and it returns the string. Okay, so we print forecast unavailable and it returns nil, but it's actually returning a string, not an optional string, so that's not going to be valid. Yeah, load forecast function does not return an optional string. We have let capitals equals an array of strings, which is Scotland and Edinburgh and Wales and Cardiff. It's a dictionary, so Scotland is Edinburgh and Wales is Cardiff. We have let Scottish capital equals capitals Scotland question mark dot uppercase. So because it's a dictionary and it could be nothing, so it is an optional that gets returned. So yeah, that looks valid. We have let favorite colors equals a dictionary of strings. So for Paul it's red, and for Charlotte it's pink. And we have let Charlotte color equals favorite colors Charlotte, and it's got a question mark, and then lowercase. So in this case, it finds Charlotte, so it'll return lowercase pink. So this is true. We have opposites, which is a dictionary of strings. So for hot, it's cold, and for near, it's far. And so for opposite of light, we have opposites light dot uppercase. It doesn't actually have a question mark after the opposites light, and it will be returning nil for that. So it's not going to be valid. Yeah, accessing a dictionary key is optional, so they should read opposites light question mark dot uppercase. Okay, we have let races equal an array of strings, which has Hamilton and Verstappen and Vettel. And we have let winner was VE equals races dot first question mark dot has prefix V or VE. So first returns an optional, so that is valid. And yeah, I'd say that's a valid Swift. Awesome, all correct. Now I'm going to do checkpoint 9. Write a function that accepts an optional array of integers and returns one of those integers randomly. If the array is missing or empty, return a new random number in the range 1 through 100. And write your function in a single line of code. Okay, let's open up Xcode and create a new work playground. Checkpoint 9. Okay, so it's a function. Get random. Takes in, say, ints is an optional array of ints. And it returns an int. So we're going to return ints dot get no ints dot random element. Otherwise, it's going to return. We'll just do int dot random in 1 100. And there we go. It's on one line. So let's try it. Get random. And we'll do 1 5 6 7 8 78. That'll do. Now let's say print. Let's give that a go. I guess that works. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.